really inept tonight. There it is. Okay. Welcome back to the Paranormal Classroom. I'm Lindsay.
I'm Amanda.
Yeah. Today we, Amanda, are going to dive in to one of the most iconic legends of all time.
Bigfoot.
Yep.
Are we really?
Yep. I don't know if we're ready.
How did we do that?
But I'm going to give it a shot.
That's not what I expected, because you were posting on Facebook about, like, tell me your stories about kids, like crazy things kids
creepy
say.
kids things.
I thought you were doing research on...
Oh, I am. But that's for a future date.
Okay.
Future date.
I was excited about that, but I'm excited about Bigfoot.
Okay, so just prime your brain for that. Before we get into even scratching the surface with my best friend in the whole wide world, Bigfoot, what's haunting you this week?
What's haunting me, this just happened an hour ago. I almost lost the new puppy. Yeah, I'm still, like, out of breath and traumatized from it.
What?
So,
did she escape out the front door or something?
no, I was taking her on a walk, and she's a baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't thinking that she's not, like, super strong, but she's big. We have a regular old leash for her. And I was far from home, pretty far, like around several corners, down several blocks. And we were like in the woods.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad to see that she's getting you out. That's awesome. I love that about my dogs.
Yeah. So we're on a great walk. And then this giant 18-wheeler comes by because they're doing construction down there. And it scared the pants off the dog.
Oh, no.
And she ran with such force that she snapped the leash in half.
What?
Yeah, she broke. I mean, the leash is just like hanging off her halfway, and half of it's in my hand.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it broke the nylon. Like that's
what?
Yes. And maybe, I don't know.
Time for leather, I guess.
I guess so. I'm thinking
leather and chains.
Chewing on it earlier or something, and I didn't notice, but it just snapped. And I can't run after a puppy who can go like so much faster than me.
No.
So I'm just watching her like just run around into the street with cars coming.
How terrifying.
It was
oh my God.
horrible. And I didn't know what to do. I called my kids and I'm like, you need to get out of the house quick and start coming toward me, and we've got to look for the dog.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
It was horrible. But here's the good news. She ran straight to the house. She somehow knew the way, which is amazing to me. Because
that is amazing. She's so smart.
She's probably only been on like 3 walks out that way.
Wow.
That I know of.
Good girl, Winnie.
She ran all the way home. So when my kids came out to look for her, she was just sitting there on the front porch scratching the door. Yeah.
Okay, now I love this dog. She's too great. I finally got to meet her, just telling everybody who's listening, I got to meet Winnie. I didn't really want to meet Winnie for a while because I was mad. Not at Winnie, but at the situation. And I didn't want to like give it any positive reinforcement. Yeah. But Winnie is a great dog. She's very smart, but she's also very sensitive, which both things played out in that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a near catastrophe. I'm so sorry. That's so stressful.
It was horrible.
I'm so glad she's okay. Mm-hmm. Winnie! So yeah, time to get leather and a leather harness and leather leashes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's haunting you?
I don't even know where to begin. It's one thing, but it is, I've been dying to tell you.
Oh, you've been saving it. I like it when you save things up for me.
So this is going to sound so banana nuts, and you just got to trust me. Okay, everybody? Just trust me. Go with it. I'm a pretty rational person. I believe in science. I also know that science, even science itself, admits that it can't explain all things.
Right.
It just won't give scientific credence to the things it can't explain with science.
Correct, because they can't.
It's got to be measurable,
they can't recreate
and
it,
it's got to be material. Is the material.
Yeah.
So I stumbled upon this podcast, and it's called the Telepathy Tapes. Have you heard of this?
No, something's vaguely familiar, but
so here's the gist, and I need everybody to listen to it because for me it has been a paradigm shift as an educator, as a human in the world. Just trust me on this. It's called Telepathy Tapes. It's about this scientist and this journalist and a small film crew creating a podcast documentary about nonverbal autistic kids, and the fact, and I'm going to use the word fact, the fact that most, according to their research, most nonverbal autistic kids are telepathic. They can read minds. They have something called the hill, where they get together in their brains across geographical distances.
What?
And teach each other things, commiserate with each other, bond, share, counsel one another. It often starts with the mom, which kind of makes sense to me because when we give birth to a child, our child's DNA is in our brain forever. Well, oftentimes this kid will be able to read their mom's mind. And I'm not talking like get a sense, get like a vibe, pick up on a feeling and emotion. I'm saying word for word. Mom's looking at a book in another room in another city.
Yeah.
And the kid can read the book with her, like through her eyes. Or whoever mind they can read.
How do they test this?
They've tested it.
How?
They're testing it. You got to listen to the
I
documentary.
will listen to it.
I know how banana nuts it sounds. They know how banana nuts it sounds, but they cannot, like, it is freaking phenomenal. And ESP has already been, scientists have already published studies that claim evidence for ESP being a savant skill. So 10% of autistic people are savants, which when they break it down, and they actually made me think, this was part of the whole paradigm shift, is that science believes that everything we learn comes from like synapses firing, neurons firing in our brain, in the gray matter in our skull. And that's where learning happens. That's how we store memories, etc. But then you can't explain savants. Because they know things they've never been taught. They know how to count, there's one kid who can get up to over 22,000 digits of pi, just off his noggin.
Wow.
People who know multiple languages.
Yeah.
They've never been taught.
We did that episode
musical
on
savants.
Jason.
Yeah.
What was it? Jason Paget, who had the savant for math. All of us, like, just after a head injury. But that was a head injury. That's different than autism.
Right.
Very much different.
Right. But it just goes to show, like, there's more, because he wasn't taught those things either.
No.
He just all of a sudden knew
them.
So if that happens, then we have to say, well, then what we understand about the brain is limited. Which we already know. We're always saying, well, we don't know. Yeah. But they won't. Science is so reticent to admit, like, yeah, clearly this is coming from somewhere else, whether it's a global consciousness kind of thing, like we are all interconnected. There's one boy in the study, teenager, they communicate with letter boards. They call them spellers. So he's communicated things like he's described like the root system, like trees communicate through their roots. And so he says kind of like that with all, like, with these nonverbal autistic people who could have the same gift. Here's the paradigm shift for me. Part one. Well, that just makes me think of, like, okay, so then and there's lots of stories in it. I'm telling you, please listen to the podcast, Telepathy Tapes, but they can't turn off who they can hear. They don't get to choose necessarily. So there's a lot of secrecy around it. There's a lot of protectiveness around it because they don't want, of course, government getting invasive with them. Also, there's so much presumption of incompetence with autistic people, particularly nonverbal. Yeah. And that's been like something that made me, as part of my personal paradigm, I work with autistic nonverbal kids once a week, very briefly, as a specialist. And it's always sort of baffled me. Like, they're just, it seems like they just go over letters and numbers and colors and shapes over and over and over again, regardless of age. They're far more intelligent than that.
But they're only communicating that with each other, it sounds like, from what you're saying.
Right. Like,
they're having whole conversations. We
as educators, the educational system is not serving their true gifts. And we're not acknowledging that they have these gifts. But then I've often thought in these classes with kids where all of a sudden you'll just get run up on and bit or scratched, or I've had juice dumped on me, or, things like that. And I've thought, gosh, so much of the time I don't even know what the trigger is. I don't know what set them off.
Yeah.
What if what set them off was something they heard in their brain through someone's thoughts?
I can't wrap my brain around it.
Right? Listen to the podcast, the Telepathy Tapes. It's unbelievable.
I will listen. I think we should do an episode on it if it's really this, like, profound to you.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And I'll probably have to trim this whole thing down, but
I'm very curious to like find out specifically what evidence they collected to verify what was going on, because how difficult, that seems really difficult if they can't communicate with us, how are they checking that they're communicating with each other?
Right. So that's going to be in the next podcast.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
I want to telepathize with you. Is that a word? I've always wanted to be able to do that. Remember, I'll like call you sometimes and be like, I'm thinking of something.
We talked about it in our episode in my classroom when the custodian walked in on us.
Yeah, that's right. I would love to be able to do that.
It's just got me thinking like a lot. I think the next episode is going to be talking about the education system and specific educators who discovered what was really going on, and then they were disbelieved, is what it sounds like, and had to fight for like just being heard and believed by other people in the districts, etc. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. I think that's episode 5. I think is what that's going to be.
Wow,
bonkers,
incredible. I can't wait to listen to the podcast. Okay. Yeah.
Well, telepathy tapes. Okay, so this might be a ginormous episode. That was already, 48 minutes?
Well, there's a zillion trillion. I mean, Bigfoot's one of the big cryptids. There's got to be a zillion stories.
Yep, so I am going to focus in on the Pacific Northwest.
I think that's great. And I think actually,
because that's where
I could see us doing multiple Bigfoot episodes in the future just because there are so many.
Well, and like I said, I have that connection to somebody, but I don't want to invite him until we figure out like our phone calls, Zoom live kind of thing. Recording phone calls, but which we're getting closer. All right, so you guessed it right on. So
that's
my
weird,
first question for you,
I guessed it right on. You know how we have this like we have a telepathic connection.
We just don't know. We don't understand it.
No, it doesn't. We can't like control it. It just
every week, every single week though.
I know.
It's wild. So Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever name you've heard, is more than just a mysterious audio recording or blurry photograph or grainy video. It's a cultural phenomenon and for many, a deeply held belief. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to play for you just to sort of set the mood. Have you ever heard of the Puyallup Scream?
Not the Puyallup Scream.
Oh yeah, this was recorded just down by my house.
That's where we live.
And this is where this was recorded.
Oh my gosh.
In 1973. You ready?
Yeah.
So this is, I'm playing a YouTube video, 1973 Bigfoot Scream, Puyallup, Washington.
This probably was a lot of woods before all the houses were put in. Because now it's all houses. That's insane.
What do you think?
Well, there was like background noise, right? So that wasn't something screaming the whole time. It was like wind or something.
Yeah.
But then over the top of that, you could hear like this high pitched, inhuman,
a whoop, like a really,
Yeah, I mean, my first thought is something logical, like an animal. Like, you know how we had that La Llorona episode, and we were pretty sure it was like a bobcat, and maybe it's some animal sound that I'm not familiar with, but I can tell you I've lived in Washington my whole life, and I've never around woods my whole life, and I've never heard a sound like that.
Samesies. Same. I've heard cougars scream. That's not a cougar scream.
Right.
Cougar scream sounds like a woman being brutally murdered. Like, it is a terrifying sound, but it's not that.
Yeah. I've heard peacock scream, which is one of my favorite noises.
Oh, that one, yes.
But that wasn't it. They weren't peacocks.
Definitely not, but that would be weird. I'd almost be just as weirded out by a bunch of peacocks being around me where I live, because that's not normal either.
That was like screaming, though. It wasn't like grunting or a language. It sounded like something.
I mean, maybe it's language. Maybe they're communicating, but we just don't. It just sounds like screaming to us.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to kind of get your little Bigfoot juices flowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird, right? So today I wanted to explore Bigfoot's indigenous origins, some historical accounts, some modern sightings, and what it all means for our understanding of human psychology and storytelling.
Cool.
Because we're educators.
You put a whole presentation together. I'm excited.
Yes.
I can't wait.
So Amanda, I know you're going to have some fascinating insights for us later, but if at any point you want to jump in, please do. Just like our normal format. Like insert, interject, interrupt me, whatever. I've really, really hesitated to hit on Bigfoot here on our podcast because it is such a massive, diverse topic with a long history, and I love Bigfoot. I have a Bigfoot tattoo, but to be clear, I'm no expert.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of us is an expert.
But you have been out hunting. You went to like a hunting thing with your husband.
Yes, I have. That was an adventure. Didn't catch anything Bigfoot related ourselves. We ended up running into a really severe storm and trees were coming down. And at one point we had to get out and like saw this tree apart to get the road cleared for people. And then one of the other couples that got out of their car to help us move the tree off the road, we just got to chatting with them and we're like, hey, we're up here doing this Bigfoot thing. And they're like, yeah, we saw it on the van. And then we said, do you have any experiences? And they were like, oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Because they live up in that area. And that was up in Bellingham, in the hills around Bellingham. So I've always been fascinated by the potential for Bigfoot, having grown up in Western Washington. And then I have, for Amanda, not like she hasn't seen it, but there's a picture of my tattoo.
Yes. We'll put that up.
You absolutely can.
So cute.
It all really ramped up for me when my kids were little. We all became obsessed with the show Finding Bigfoot. Have you seen Finding Bigfoot?
I think I have. It's a documentary, right?
Yeah, so there's two, and I'm going to talk about both of them. But we started with Finding Bigfoot, and this would have been like 12 years ago.
Can I tell you when I fell in love with Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, God, yes.
Harry and the Hendersons, the sweetest stinking movie ever.
Of course. He sort of scared me, though. And I didn't really think of him, I didn't know enough to know that it was possible that he was real. Like, to me, it was just a made-up character for the movie. But then, as, of course, time went on, I'm like, oh, that's based on real legends and lore, if not something more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great movie. Harry and the Hendersons. And I wonder if it holds up. I haven't seen it with my kids or anything.
That was John Lithgow, right?
Yeah.
Played the dad? Yeah.
Classic. Okay. So, there's shows about Bigfoot, lots of Bigfoot stories, lots of Bigfoot shows, lots of Bigfoot horror genre movies, all kinds of things, stories, books, fan fiction, whatever you want to call it. So there are two that we watched though, Finding Bigfoot and then later Expedition Bigfoot. We started watching when my kids were like 4 and 6 years old. So a little background on Finding Bigfoot. It's a reality television series that aired on Animal Planet from 2011 to 2018. The show follows a team of investigators that includes Matt Moneymaker, the founder of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization,
That's
or PFRO.
His name, Matt Moneymaker?
Yep. Renee Holland, who's a skeptical scientist based out of Seattle. Cliff Barrickman, a field researcher and Bigfoot enthusiast, and he's based out of, I think, Boring, Oregon.
Why do you call it Boring?
No, that's the name of the city.
I love Oregon. It's got Portland, it's got Powell's.
There's a town called Boring, Oregon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Boring, Oregon.
Isn't that the best? There's also Weed, California.
I know
which
that
always
one.
Makes me
That's
laugh.
funny.
And then another guy, James Bobo Fay, who's an experienced Bigfoot. No, Fay. Boba Fett.
We're calling him James Boba
If you
Fett.
saw him, you would not continue to call him. More closely related to Bigfoot himself than Boba Fett.
Cool.
An experienced Bigfoot tracker. So together they interview eyewitnesses, examine reported encounters, and conduct nighttime expeditions using high-tech equipment like thermal cameras, audio recorders, etc. to detect signs of Bigfoot activity.
Well, Boba Fett was a skilled tracker.
Okay, fair comparison. All right. Yes, I will just affirm you. Yes, Amanda. Excellent connection.
Like, why did I tell Amanda she could interrupt?
No, I love it. It's good. It's a little sassy. A little sassier than normal. I'm digging it. While the show Finding Bigfoot never conclusively proves the existence of Bigfoot. If it had, we all would have heard about it, right?
Right.
But it highlights the enduring fascination with the creature and the cultural impact of Bigfoot stories. So then recently I was listening to, and I know you've heard their podcast, Haunted Objects, with Dana and Greg Newkirk.
Yes.
And they did an episode of Finding Bigfoot with these guys at one point.
Wow.
They did. I remember seeing it. And they were talking about other podcasts, their most recent one that I listened to. And they said that James Bobo Fay told them after they were filming or whatever, he said that the format of the show is exactly the opposite of what works for Finding Bigfoot.
That's funny.
Yep. They have talked to a lot of people in the Bigfoot finding industry, and they all say that intentional camping, just go out camping, hang out by a fire in the woods or by water in a remote place, and just listening may draw them out. So just hanging out quietly in the woods with a fire, chilling, is the best way to do it. Not
As
going
opposed
out
to,
like hunting them
and making
down
all
with
that
high-tech
noise.
equipment. And
Yeah.
He said they also love treats like donuts, Nutella, and marshmallows.
Well, that's like fairies and all kinds
and
of
me.
And me.
And you.
Yeah. Leave me treats, please.
Yes.
I'll come out of my house.
I'll be a Bigfoot. So here's a funny, cute story about our family connection to this TV series. So as I said, we all watched Finding Bigfoot. One day we watched it while I was babysitting 2 additional kids. So I had all 4 kids, and they were all under the age of 6. And one of them was Charlie. Shout out to Charlie. I don't know if Charlie listens or that their family listens, but they were one of the kids there. And then another little boy named Isaac. I don't know if his parents listen, but maybe I'll tell them that he's getting a shout out. Maybe they'll start listening. And then my 2 children.
Yeah, we need to interview them and see if they were traumatized by this babysitting.
Oh, 100% they were. 100%. So they had been watching the episodes all morning long. And then all of a sudden I noticed they each decided to do a role play. They all started role playing. They each took on a role from the show. So we had my daughter played Renee Holland, the skeptical scientist.
That's kind of cute.
So I want to play audio from, because I videoed it.
Oh my gosh.
It's on
You
YouTube.
really prepared this today.
So this was in 2012.
Wow.
Yes. Raise your hand if you ever think you've seen Bigfoot, hear Bigfoot, or found tracks. Raise your hand nice and high for me, please.
If you see
Okay,
the show,
Charlie
it's
first.
so funny.
I heard him roar. It was scary. Okay, Isaac. I saw his footprints and he was walking, and then I actually saw him. He was black and gray, and he started looking at me, and it wasn't a monkey because he did this weird kind of roar. It was could it be a human and a guy in a costume, or a bear, or just his costume wasn't wiggly, so I knew it wasn't a costume. Because you know how costumes shake around. It wasn't shaky. It was sucked onto his body. Was the fur moving? Did you see its face? Yeah, and his eyes were red, so I knew it wasn't a person. Okay. And I also saw him peeking over the fence. Well, yeah. Okay, Jack. Once I saw his face peek over. Okay, Jack. Once I saw a Bigfoot that was
Hold on, listen to Jack's story too.
walking across the raspberries, and then it jumped over the fence, and there was this scream that made me scared, and it made my insides shake. We did grab the fence and jump over it.
Oh, that's the climax for me.
That's
It goes
so
on, but how
cute.
precious is that?
Also, he described it perfectly because that scream that you played at the beginning made my inside shake. So good job, Jack.
Yeah. Oh God, I think it's just so cute. There were the little voices. Now they're all big.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, to go back.
Your
So-
daughter did a good job with really good questions.
Oh my gosh, she did such a good little thing that I thought it was so cute that I tweeted it and tagged Renee Holland in it.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Did
And
she-
she actually tweeted us back, and she offered to meet my daughter
Oh,
and talk about,
wow.
learn more about being a scientist. I followed up with her a couple of times. It never happened.
Wow,
But she
though.
is in and out of Seattle with work and stuff. So it was still a very cool exchange, even
was
though
really nice of her.
nothing ever came out of it. But hey, Ms. Holland, if you're listening, my daughter is 17 now, but would still love to connect.
Yeah, we're here.
If you want to get on our show, we'd love to talk to you and hear how it's going with your work these days. So more recently, and this is the one I think you've seen, my husband and I watched Expedition Bigfoot.
I think that's the one I've seen.
I
It's
think
more
so,
recent
too.
on
Yep.
Discovery Plus.
Yeah. So this team consists of seasoned professionals, including primatologist Dr. Maria Mayer, survivalist and military expert Russell Acord, Bigfoot field researcher Ronnie LeBlanc, and data analyst Bryce Johnson, who also serves as the series narrator. Together they embark on multi-week expeditions in remote, dense forests across North America where reported sightings and encounters have occurred. So the series distinguishes itself by incorporating advanced tools like drone-mounted thermal imaging cameras, which they have some crazy footage on that, environmental DNA sampling, and motion-triggered cameras to capture evidence.
Yes, this is what we need to do when we're researching paranormal weird stuff. It's
Absolutely.
like really, you got to get out there with the equipment.
But also they have yet to definitively prove the existence of Sasquatch, but it brings a fresh data-driven perspective, like you were just saying.
Yeah.
We love some data. Data-driven perspective to Bigfoot research. Blending scientific inquiry with the thrill of cryptid exploration.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I think both appeal to like thrill seekers and skeptics alike, because it kind of, they both balance like science, but also the, well, what if?
Yeah.
And I've just always thought it's just more fun to believe. I'm kind of that way with a lot of things. Like, I don't know if it's real.
Well, yeah, Sasquatch
but it's just more fun to believe.
It is fun because, especially, I think because he's local.
Right.
Right? Because
the PNW is super famous for Bigfoot.
yeah, I mean, we have tons of people who have stories.
Yep. Yep.
So it makes it fun. Like when you drive around in our neighborhood, in our part of the world, everybody's got a Subaru with a little rainbow Bigfoot sticker on the back.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I have, we all have those water bottles, and almost everybody's got a Bigfoot sticker of some kind on that too.
There's this farm that I drive by on my way to work every day out in like Spanaway Graham area.
Oh, okay.
And they're in the farm. They have a huge like life-sized cutout of a metal, like iron metal Sasquatch silhouette.
Oh yeah.
And the first time I saw it, it scared the pants off me.
Oh, I bet. I need one.
It's
That's
great.
what I want.
It was big. It was just awesome.
I want that.
Yeah. Oh, you reminded me of a story.
Go
you
for
don't
it.
have to keep this. But my husband's dad came up with this story. They used to go hiking and camping a lot when my husband was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
He came up with this story about Mad Axe Henry. It's one of those like spooky stories you tell when you're out camping with your family.
Yeah.
Mad Axe Henry is this guy who lives in the woods, and he loves chopping people up. And when he can't find people to chop up, he chops off the tops of trees. So when you're out on a hike, every now and then you'll see a tree with like the top of it gone. That's a sign that Mad Axe Henry is there.
That is so terrifying.
And Mad Axe Henry could get you any minute. Yeah.
So what? What am I supposed to do with that information?
Just go on a hike terrified as a 6-year-old, I guess. I don't know.
That's awful.
Well, they joke about it now. They're not like genuinely scared about it. They're like, oh, look, Mad Axe Henry was here. Because you'll see it. Like, if
Well,
you're out
sure,
hiking,
now
you'll see
as
trees.
a rational adult, but
Yeah, as a kid,
because it is a tough thing to explain. Like, I mean, they break off in storms and this and that. But as a kid, it just looks really weird when just the tree top is busted off.
I kind of think he's a big teaser, so I wonder if they knew he was teasing or if it truly scared him. I'm gonna have to ask him at the next.
I mean, my dad was a big
family
teaser
party.
too, and I think my dad thought he was teasing, and it scarred me for life with the whole Jaws theme.
Oh, I'm not a fan of teasing. I actually think teasing is mean.
Well, and it scarred me for life with
Yeah.
swimming in natural bodies of water. I won't do it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. Okay, that and the like, the Winkies or whatever from the Wizard of Oz. F the Winkies. I don't like those guys. Okay. Since Bigfoot, back to Bigfoot. Blah, 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 blah. Since Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, etc. is such a widespread topic full of stories and accounts from different parts of the world, that's why I wanted to center my focus to the Pacific Northwest connection to Bigfoot, since that's where we call home and where Bigfoot is arguably most frequently experienced, which you touched on already. So let's go way back. We're going to start at the beginning. Bigfoot stories with indigenous beliefs and origins.
Oh, yes.
Okay? So the
Yes.
stories of Bigfoot go back centuries, long before European settlers arrived in the Pacific Northwest. Indigenous tribes in the region have rich oral traditions about a large, hairy, human-like creature that roams the forest.
Yes.
Yes, many tribes have their own names and interpretations of this creature. For example, here's how you pronounce the name that the Lummi tribe.
I had never thought of that. I'm excited. Did you look up how it's pronounced in
I
other
did.
languages? That's cool.
I did because I didn't want to get it wrong. It's spelled capital T-S apostrophe E-M-E-K-W-E-S. Seskauts.
Oh, that's kind of similar to Sasquatch.
Right.
When you
That's where
said-
the word Sasquatch comes from. Seskauts.
Okay.
And I hope I'm not totally butchering that.
Well, we probably are, but I can see this. I'm interested in like hearing the similarity, right? Like I can already hear that it's similar. I didn't think about that with the TS at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So that's one. And then the other, so that's a shadowy figure that's part of their spiritual world. And the Salish have stories about Saskaets, a protector of nature who's not to be trifled with.
That's cool.
So my dad told me a story about meeting and speaking with a group of teenagers living on the Yakima Indian Reservation.
Okay.
About 15 years ago. And I don't remember all the details of the story, but what I remember is that he was getting to know these kids. It was part of like a cross-cultural exchange that my dad and some other people from their church, I think, went out, and then they just like were learning about the culture. And so he had been connecting with these teenagers and the teenagers from his church. And one night around the campfire, they were just talking. They'd gotten comfortable with one another. And so he felt bold enough to ask them about Bigfoot, about Sasquatch.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? And he said it was not even, there was no hesitation. It was just like, oh yeah, yeah. It is just reality. It is just a part of their cultural reality. And I love that. I was like, God, I wish I had been there. I want to be a part of more conversations like that with people who really know. But these aren't just campfire tales. So the stories often carry moral or spiritual lessons, like respecting the wilderness or acknowledging forces beyond human understanding.
Maybe they're forest spirits.
Could be. I believe in those too. As a teacher, I often think about how these stories shape cultural identity and values. They're a way to pass down important knowledge and reinforce community ties. So whether it's a real thing, a spiritual thing, a made-up thing, part of lore, legend, teachings, regardless, it's part of culture.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something as teachers we need to grasp hold of, as many stories from cultural backgrounds as we can, to make things real and relevant and just culturally competent for our students.
Well, when I was a kid, I just having this conversation with somebody, maybe it was you on the podcast even, but when I was in elementary school in Olympia, and shout out to Olympia teachers, we had a rich daily part of our curriculum was on like local tribes. And remember, we didn't go into the dark history, which is really important to do, but we did a lot of the like the stories, the folklore, the crafts, the way of life,
stories,
like how they survived. It was really a big part of my elementary experience.
And I was also raised in Olympia, but different school district. And we did not.
Yeah, and I don't know that we do that now anywhere in Washington to the same level that I had it when I was a kid.
I don't know when it went out, but I remember 4th grade is supposed to be, still is, on the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction website. We have social studies standards. Straight up, they're not being taught in every school everywhere. They're supposed to be. We also have the Since Time Immemorial curriculum, which is also state mandated, which is all about our tribal history. Also not being taught with fidelity. There's so much that is not being taught that breaks my heart. Stories, they resonate. It obviously did with you. You remember as a kid on a deep level.
Black cat's crossing us right now. Sorry to interrupt.
Is it a cat or is it a wreck? Oh yeah, that's a cat. That's okay. They're lucky. I love little black kitties.
Yes.
So the wilderness, let's see, what did I have here? The wilderness is vast and mysterious, so creatures like Sasquatch might represent our awe and fear of the unknown, or just wilderness itself. Sure does for me, man.
I get that.
I'm not a camper.
I'm scared of it anyway.
Hiker.
No. And I don't even think about Sasquatch. Like, there's about 100 other things I worry about. Like, what do they call them? The widowmakers, a tree falling on me.
Oh, sure.
Or any other animal, just like.
Or creepy human.
Or a creepy human. Absolutely. That's like top of the list.
Yeah, I don't run. I don't hike. So we've talked about the indigenous history there. Then we'll move. So origins go way, way back. The point being, way before European settlers. This has been a deal. But the first recorded sightings by settlers date back to the 19th century. Prospectors, loggers, and hunters Okay, I have to. Every time I see the word prospector, it makes me laugh.
Because you think of like, get off my property. That's where I go.
Have you ever seen the old prospector sketch on Saturday Night Live with
No.
Will Ferrell? Oh my gosh, people, please Google.
Oh, I will put
prospector sketch.
Yeah, everything
with
we
Will
reference
Ferrell.
in these, I find them and I stick them on our Facebook and our Insta.
Mike and I are watching we just call it the Ranch show, the SW Ranch, because I don't want to say the word out loud.
I know what you mean.
Every once in a while, my husband will say, "They need to get an old prospector in there," and he's referencing Will Ferrell's character.
That's funny. Do you know there's another show just like it called The Blind Frog Ranch?
Yes, we haven't watched it yet.
I just started watching it, but it's really similar. And they're actually their deal is that they were looking for gold, and they like brought on a geologist, and they were filming like their search for gold. But all these weird things similar to SW Ranch.
Oh, interesting.
Were happening there. They're like close to each other.
That's undeniable. Like, it's just crazy what's going on. Talk about their scientific collection of data. Okay, so prospectors, loggers, and hunters reported seeing large footprints or encountering strange ape-like creatures. And then, of course, there's the famous Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967.
Oh, that film. So my favorite podcast, is probably Astonishing Legends. Those are the guys I talked about last week where they go deep dive. They did like hours and hours on that Patterson-Gimlin film. And they're both like skeptics, but they're like scientists. They like really like to research.
Yeah.
Like we do, but we don't go into enough depth. But I recommend it. I'm saying I recommend it for anyone who wants to go into more detail on that. Yep.
And there's the sort of the going summary right now is that it's impossible to refute it. Like, it's impossible to say, no, that's definitely not this creature, whatever it is. In fact, some even go so far to say that is a female Sasquatch. They've called her Patty after the Patterson-Gimlin. So that's the one where if you don't know what that means, it's the most famous video of all time referencing Bigfoot, where Bigfoot takes a casual stroll through a clearing and kind of looks back over its shoulder.
Every sticker, every sign you've seen is like a silhouette of that.
Every time I watch my husband walk down the road,
he lumbers like that?
He lumbers just like Patty. And if he has to cross the street and he has to like look over his shoulder to see if there's a car is coming,
he's also like
spot on.
8 feet tall. So.
He's 6'4", and it is. My kids are like, "Mom, you're making fun of him." I'm like, "No, it's just amazing. Like, it's just so spot on." Because I love Bigfoot, and of course, I love my husband. And there the two meet every time in the middle of the street. So it's been analyzed. This video's been analyzed endlessly by these people that you listen to. Hundreds of others with skeptics and believers debating its authenticity. But like I said, they call her Patty, believing her anatomy to make her female. So there's another story, though, totally outside of the Patty one. Just to throw this in there, there was a faker, a real bad faker, who used a footprint stamp, Bigfoot stamp.
Rude.
Yep. And that was before there were so many widely known stories, but this guy just thought it would be hilarious to make a Bigfoot, like, stamp, essentially, and go out and mark the areas around. How
did he do it? Did he like strap them to his own feet and go on a walk with like super long strides?
So. And then people found them, found the tool he was using, and his cover was blown, and he just thought it was so funny.
That's not cool.
But people thought it was legit or could have been legit, and so then it really made a mockery of the potential for it to be legitimate for a long time, and for some people still. But the Pacific Northwest remains a hotspot for sightings, from the Sierra Nevadas in Northern California to Oregon's Mount Hood to Washington's Olympic Peninsula. Just last year, there were dozens of reported encounters.
Who do they report
in
them
that
to?
Area. News agencies.
Who would you call? Would you call the like forestry?
Probably, I would.
A ranger.
I would.
Oh, I wonder. We should talk to rangers and
Services.
see how many like stories they've heard or things they've seen.
I've heard people talk about like people that I've encountered, and I always, if there's a chance to bring up Bigfoot, I'm going to bring it up. And I've talked to people, forestry workers, hunters, and every single one's been like, "Oh, if it's out there, I would have seen it." But then I'm like, well, maybe you don't have the right attitude about seeing it. Maybe if it's a thing, maybe it knows that you're not safe, or I'm not saying it's like Tinkerbell where you have to believe in it to see it, but I think if it's a spiritual thing, that might be part of it.
Well, and I've heard so many theories on Bigfoot, right? So there's some people think it's a physical being with a mask and fur and it leaves footprints, and then other people believe it's like invisible or like a spirit or a like I've even heard one theory I heard from is that it's everything's the same thing. Everything that we're encountering that's weird, Bigfoot and other cryptids and ghosts and whatever poltergeists, it's all coming from the same dimension or something.
That I'll skip ahead a little bit to this piece because you've alluded to it, and it's a great segue. So there are, how many did I figure out? 7 or 8? 7 categories of theories for what Bigfoot
I love
is,
it. Yes,
okay?
yes.
So here's the first one. The first one is Bigfoot as a biological creature. So this theory suggests that Bigfoot is a real, undiscovered species of primate or hominid. Some potential explanations include like a relict population of Gigantopithecus, which is a surviving descendant of Gigantopithecus, which is a giant ape species in Asia.
That's in a song in Jungle Book that King Louis sings. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to find the song.
I bet you're right.
But
I mean, that would be a really
like,
specific like connection to make if it weren't.
Well, this is how my brain works.
I love it. Yeah, because that takes place, the Jungle Book, doesn't that take place somewhere in Asia, the Asian continent?
I believe so.
I mean, it's a made-up Disney story, but I think that's where it's centered. Well, Gigantopithecus was a giant ape species that lived in Asia and may have migrated to North America via the Bering Land Bridge. Okay, so there's that one. An unknown primate. Bigfoot could be a large primate that has evolved separately in North America, remaining elusive due to its intelligence and habitat preferences. Or thirdly, in the biological category, a hominid relative. Bigfoot might be a distant relative of humans like Neanderthals or Denisovans, that I think that's how you say that somehow survived extinction. So that's the first one. Okay. Biological.
Yeah.
2, Bigfoot as a spirit or supernatural entity. Many indigenous cultures and modern believers consider Bigfoot to have spiritual or supernatural attributes. That's what I personally believe.
Like a forest spirit or
Nature spirit. Bigfoot is seen as a guardian of the wilderness, embodying nature's power and mystery. A shapeshifter. In some stories, Bigfoot has the ability to appear and disappear at will, leading to its elusive nature.
Oh, is this number 3? Sorry,
this is number 2.
Number 2 is also shapeshifter. Okay.
Well, within the spirit or supernatural, it's nature spirit, shapeshifter, or interdimensional being. Some
that's
believe
all one category?
That's one thing under Bigfoot as a spirit or supernatural entity. So interdimensional being, it's not an alien. It's believed that it can move between dimensions or realities, explaining the lack of physical evidence.
Yeah.
I first started hearing that story with the person that my husband knows. I'll just say his first name. His first name is Scott, and he's a Bigfoot hunter. And he's had a lot of personal experiences with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Or what he believes is Bigfoot at this point. And he's got theories about it being a spiritual being. He's got evidence to support that. He's got evidence to support it could possibly also be interdimensional, possibly alien, but definitely heavy evidence to support it being
I can't wait to have him on the show.
Yeah. Number 3, Bigfoot as an alien. This theory ties Bigfoot to UFO sightings. Proponents suggest that Bigfoot is A, an alien companion, a creature brought to Earth by extraterrestrials, or B, an experiment, a hybrid or test subject created by advanced alien species.
I haven't heard that theory.
Yeah. Number 4, Bigfoot as a cultural archetype. Skeptics and anthropologists often view Bigfoot as a product of human psychology and storytelling.
Okay.
So like a symbol of the wild,
yes, I think that
folklore,
deserves its
mythology.
own category. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or mass hysteria or hoaxes. Many sightings attributed to hoaxes, misidentified animals, or psychological phenomena like pareidolia, seeing patterns like faces where none exist.
That's when you take a picture and somebody's like, look at the face looking at me, and it's just like the shadows of the leaves on the tree. Yeah.
Right. But then you can start to see it if somebody points it out.
I see pareidolia whenever I'm every car I look at, I think it has a face.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
Absolutely. Headlights are eyes. And then moose or otherwise. Oh, so this is back to category number 5, Bigfoot as misidentified animals. So often it's bears or moose.
Yeah.
Things like that. Moose are enormous.
Wait, what does a moose sound like when it screams? Could
They
that
don't
have been a
scream.
moose at the beginning?
No, we don't. Well, first of all, we don't have moose. We didn't even have moose
We
here
have
in the
elk.
70s.
Oh my gosh, we have elk here. So elk came into my neighborhood, which is, I don't know if I told you this. Do you have
No,
pictures
when
of
was
it?
this?
My neighborhood is like suburbia, right? Like,
Where the heck did they come from?
because they're tearing down a bunch of the woods to build more and more and more suburbia out in my part of the world. And so we get animals all the time. Like we've had cougars and wolves, and like we get all kinds of animals. We have to keep our cats. We can't let our cats out.
Oh, no. We have coyotes in ours.
Yeah, but recently there was a whole herd of elk just walking down our street.
What?
And everybody was, it was all over our Facebook page, community Facebook page, and people are out taking pictures.
Oh, it makes me sad.
It makes me sad too, and the pictures are not like, I don't know, there's something so sad about seeing them, like a whole herd of elk in front of a chain link fence and a manicured lawn, and yeah.
I don't like it at all.
But no one hurt. I mean, I'm sure they're safe. Hopefully they've found their way to some more woods.
Well, that's only going to last so long. Mm-hmm. Got to protect them. Okay, so...
But that was, anyway, I've got totally off topic.
That's okay.
That's why these are so long.
No, we all do. We
but
both do
maybe
it.
an elk sound.
They bugle. I know what an elk sounds like. That's not it doesn't match.
I haven't heard anything that sounded like that screaming you played.
No.
At the beginning. And even I've heard people like they claim that they have audio of Sasquatch. I've heard some on like my favorite Astonishing Legends podcast and things like that, but it didn't sound like that. I don't think it did.
Oftentimes I'll hear it's more like a whoop.
Yeah,
whoop,
a whooping
whoop.
sound.
This is like a
It was like
it's
a scream,
like an ape,
yeah.
like an ape scream, like a really mad Planet of the Apes chimpanzee
Yeah.
/ human hybrid scream. All right, so Bigfoot as misidentified animals, then Bigfoot as a hoax or social phenomenon. So hoaxes like the guy with the stamp, the fabricated footprints, or shared cultural meme perpetuated by media, films, and collective fascination. Number 7, this is the last category, Bigfoot as a hypothetical explanation. So stick with me here. Scientists and enthusiasts use Bigfoot as a thought experiment to explore broader questions like cryptozoology. What would it take to discover and document a new species of this size?
That's cool. Yeah.
And also human perception. How do we interpret the unknown? And why do we see patterns in chaos? So 2 philosophical / scientific wonderings.
That's very
musings.
cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool category.
I love those.
We discover species all the time. One of my favorite things to do is to like Google what species were discovered this month. And there's always tons of them. Tons. Especially little. But they're especially little ones. Like
microorganisms, little tiny bugs.
Yeah, bugs and
little fish,
reptiles.
Worms, different kinds of worms at the bottom of the ocean, vents and things.
And the ocean is a whole... We're always...
Oh, yeah.
The deeper we go, the more we find.
I think aliens are here, and I think they have bases in the ocean.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I don't
You watched
necessarily agree or disagree,
right?
but yeah.
Yeah. I think
what a in there in the category of possibilities. Yeah.
So as a teacher, I think about how curiosity drives learning. So Bigfoot stories, that's what it is for me. I think ultimately it's just curiosity. Bigfoot stories are like puzzles we're trying to solve. And we love a puzzle and an escape room and mind benders. And Bigfoot is a lot like that. So
that's why
what's your favorite theory?
My favorite theory? Oh man, Lindsay. I guess I want a theory that kind of covers everything, because I do believe that people believe that they've had these experiences, but their experiences vary so widely between, seeing a physical biological shape to just having rocks thrown at you or hearing knocks but not seeing anything. So like something, what's the word, incorporeal?
Yeah, great word.
I need a theory that covers all of that. So that, I guess that would be something that can not shapeshift, but like come in and out of, maybe it goes through portals, or maybe it goes through other dimensions, or it's just something's going on where it's not physical all the time, which totally reminds me of,
which is why we haven't seen bones or skeletons or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, there would be more evidence. I would think there would be more evidence.
A wacky theory I heard was it could be like the ghosts of Neanderthals.
Oh, that's interesting. Hadn't thought of that. But you know what it reminds me of? Did you see recently the somebody leaked some video from the military, and the military like admitted that this was like real video that they had of a floating octopus type
Through the base, the
entity
military
through the base.
That's
Through the
on
military base.
Investigation Alien.
Yeah, but it comes in and out of sight. It's like they're seeing it on radar or just the heat sensor.
They
or
can't
something.
see it with the human eye.
You
It's
can't see it with the
only
human
on-
eye, but also even with whatever they're filming it with, it comes in and out of existence.
Wild.
That is kind of what I picture. If Sasquatch exists, the reason that people have so many different stories, maybe it's some kind of entity like that octopus entity that
presents
comes
itself
in and
in-
out.
And I've heard that in a lot of different, excuse me, eyewitness accounts. It's like if you've ever seen the Predator movies,
Yeah,
where it's like glimmery, like it camouflages
Yup.
through the woods. I've also heard that it's possible that they like are tree spirits, that they could actually like hide then inside the trees. So that's another thing that they could, all of a sudden they're just gone. Well, they've
You made that noise. You made a
slurped them
slurping
up.
noise.
The trees just slurp them up. And I have so many huge trees in my backyard. I mean, they're not like sequoias or anything, but huge, big cedar trees in my yard all over the place. And darn it, if I don't think about it every so often when I'm out in my backyard, like, is Bigfoot in one of them trees right now watching me? What am I going to do if it is? Like, I feel that way about anything. Like this
You're good.
octopus alien thing.
Yeah, that
What
thing.
am I going to do?
There's
If
nothing you
all
can
of
do.
these things turn out to be real, well, is my life really going to change? No. Does my paradigm shift? Yeah.
Not until
am
they
I
decide
forced-
it changes.
Right.
Right.
Still, at that point, if that thing is out there, these things are out there, there's nothing I can do about it.
It hasn't impacted your life so far,
No.
whatever they're doing.
It's just made my life more interesting.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
But
the
Sasquatch-
real flesh and blood people are scarier to me than anything like this.
True. We don't really have a lot of stories of Sasquatch in somebody's backyard. Most of the stories I've heard are when people are really out there. Really out there.
Although there
away
are a
from
lot of
civilization.
people who do have stories. In fact, one of my favorite ones is where, and I can't remember the source right now, but a story of somebody hears like a kind of knocking, scratching at their back door, and it's nighttime, and they go open their back door, and there's Bigfoot like standing there,
I've never heard a story like that.
and it's like it doesn't say anything, but it's just like there, and it's kind of looking, and the human looks over, and there's like a candy bar sitting on the table outside the door. He's like, do you want that? Are you hungry? And it somehow communicates like, yes.
It's like, baby?
And
Ruth.
so, baby Ruth. And so then the Goonies give him the chocolate bar,
Yeah.
or whatever it was, and the human man feels like there's some sort of exchange of like a thank you, and it just like lumbers off. And then I think I heard this actually on the Haunted Objects podcast as well, the same episode I just listened to, and Greg and Dana start laughing because they're like, oh my god, he was just trick-or-treating. When did this happen? Oh my god, it was late fall. He was trick-or-treating.
That's
He
really
watched
funny.
other human kids do it and was like, I got an idea.
That's really funny.
Wouldn't that be funny?
It's hilarious, but also this is why I don't open the door if I don't expect you, because you could be Sasquatch, you could be a black-eyed kid, you could be all kinds of things. You could just be trying to
I
sell
know.
me
I never
something.
open the door. Every once
never
in a
do.
while. First of all, the peepholes on my door were made for giants. I can't. The peephole is over a foot above my eyesight level.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'd have to have a step stool.
It was made
to
for
look
your
at.
husband. Yeah.
Yeah, and even for him. I mean, the people who built the house were ginormous.
Nothing in this world is made for people who are 5'2". I can only
No.
reach like the bottom shelf of my cabinets.
Oh, and
Anything
mine
else
was
is-
intentionally made. The entire house was intentionally built for people
That's
well over
wild.
6 feet tall. So everything is like, honey, can you
I
come
know.
adjust the shower head? Because I can't even reach it on my tippy toes.
My front door has windows in it, and so when
I don't like that.
When I don't answer the door, and I don't, the people can see me.
Yeah,
like
they're
they're
like-
looking in at me, and they're like,
Maybe
I've had
you should
people
put some
who
of
really,
that frosted like contact paper.
should,
Get on
yeah.
top. Some of it looks really nice.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Well, I've gone up to the door before, and I've shouted through the door, "I don't know you. I don't answer." Like, you can shout, and then this one guy got really mad. Like, it was a male that I didn't know who came unexpected.
Clueless.
And then he
Clueless,
was
dude.
furious that I didn't open the door. And I'm like, well, yeah, this is why I don't open the door.
J-hole.
Your aggression is like freaking me out.
Get out of here,
Yeah.
loser. Okay.
Continue.
So this was just like a real cursory overview of PNW Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But, so whether Bigfoot is real or just a figment of our collective imagination, the legend lives on. It connects us to the land, to each other, and to the mysteries that make life so intriguing. I think it's a great example of how stories shape our world, whether they're stories based on fact or fiction. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I just think it's more fun to believe. So that wraps it up. Do you have any last thoughts before I start closing it out?
Well, I love that you prepared such a well-written. That was beautiful.
Well, thank
How
you.
you put that together.
Well, thanks. Thanks for joining us today. And don't forget to share your own Bigfoot tales with us. Please, please, please. You can get a hold of us on our socials, Facebook and Instagram, at The Paranormal Classroom. You can also email us at theparanormalclassroom at gmail.com. We've started receiving more and more messages, which is super fun. And I got a favorite this week from my childhood friend, Jessica. Jessica has a brilliant young daughter named Neona, and I told Amanda about Neona a couple days ago. Here's Jessica's Facebook message to me this past week. She messaged to ask us, well, Amanda, that's Jessica. I have a picture of you, Jessica, so I can show Amanda.
Jessica.
She messaged to ask us to talk about the Jersey drone situation, which we did.
Yes.
But she didn't know that yet. And so then I had also just listened to a podcast, the most recent episode of a podcast called How Did We Get Here, which was all about the Jersey drone phenomenon. It was fascinating, in-depth, researched. It was awesome. I loved it. So I suggested that to Jessica via Messenger, and Jessica wrote back, and here's her quote. Quote, "Oh, I'll check it out. Thanks. Currently listening to your voice right now. Ha ha, your ears must be burning. I'm driving in the car listening to it." And then she told me she listens with her daughter, Neona. Jessica goes on to say, quote, "Neona likes listening to your podcast too. She just told me that this one, the one about the Jersey drones, is boring. And she wants to go back to my friends." So and then Jessica adds, she got a kick out of you guys talking about Oreos. In the Dancing Plague episode when Amanda was like,
So it was all about mass hysteria. And I was like, I'm going to start my own mass hysteria.
see if anybody goes along with
Taking
it.
naps in a pile of Oreos.
Beautiful.
I get it, Neona.
Guess what?
What?
Neona has a birthday coming up. She's going to be 4 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So that probably not only makes her like the coolest listener, but the youngest. The youngest listener, which is super rad. So happy birthday, Neona, and thank you for listening. Maybe your mama will get you some Oreos to celebrate.
I'm a little jealous because you're getting all the like voicemails and Facebook messages. Your friends are listening to us.
God bless them.
Like, could my friends?
Yeah.
Feel
hello? Knock, knock, knock. Amanda's friends. Well, here's why.
Why? Well, I don't think I have as many friends.
Yes, you do.
I don't think so.
You're so private.
I am very private.
You don't advertise
I think
it
most people
personally.
do not know that I'm really interested in this
Well,
kind of thing.
you don't tell anybody that you're doing this podcast. I tell everybody.
Yeah, I am secretive.
So they're not going to stumble upon it.
Well,
That's why. If you were intentionally be like, "Hey, I got a podcast. Check it out," then people would. Because people want to support their friends.
So my husband's an author, and I don't bring that up, but he brings it up everywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes, he's checking out food at Safeway, whatever. He's like,
that's
"I'm an author. Have
marketing.
you read my book?"
He wants to sell his book, and
Yeah.
he's proud of it. He worked his booty off. You worked your booty off helping him
do.
too.
But I didn't work my booty off for the podcast, kind of.
Yes,
but
you do.
I don't really.
I feel like, well, and you've said you're a little more self-conscious about what people might think
Very.
about you thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it because it has no bearing on my intelligence. It does not make me weak. It does not make me silly. I am open-minded. I am paying attention to the stories, diverse stories and experiences of people around me. I think it makes me empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes me creative. I think it makes life more fun.
For
just
sure.
Simply.
Yeah.
And no one, not a single person on this planet has all of the answers and can say one way or another that any of this is real or fake. We're just talking about the possibilities.
Right.
There's no shame in that game.
You're like my free therapist. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, scholars, your homework for today is tell 2 people about us. 2 people who won't hate you if they hate our podcast.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, just basic stuff. So if you can tell a couple people about us and make sure you follow our Facebook and our Instagram, we could really use, like, we're starting to kind of build an audience, but we could really use the help.
We could use
support.
some follows on whatever platform you listen to us. Rate, subscribe, whatever the kids are saying these days. Rate, review, subscribe, follow, all the things. It just takes a minute or two and it makes a big difference for us. If you see us post the episodes, like I share them on my personal Facebook page. If you see them there and can share them or want to share them, please do. If it's not already public, just let me know and I'll share it with you. There's no wrong thing to email us. Like if you have something crazy, no, it's all pass fail. Either you do it and you pass or you don't and you fail. So this is a big hairy episode.
Dork.
All right, until next time, keep your eyes open and your minds curious.
Class dismissed.
And don't open the door. Okay, before we sign off, I'm going to give a trigger warning here because I'm going to mention suicide in a minute. Please take care of yourself in whatever way that means for you. But I would be remiss if I didn't remind everyone still listening about the 988 hotline. Someone I care a lot about lost their partner to suicide this week. And almost every time it seems like the news comes as a shock, even to those closest to the one who's suddenly gone. If you need to talk, the 988 Lifeline is here. At the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, they understand that life's challenges can sometimes be difficult. Whether you're facing mental health struggles, emotional distress, alcohol or drug use concerns, or just need someone to talk to, their counselors are here for you. You are not alone. You can call or text 988. You can also use a chat feature at 988lifeline.org. I've experienced dark times in my life. I think many, if not most of us have. But someone wise once asked me not to take irreversible action when I'm at my lowest. Someone is always willing to listen, and if you aren't sure where to turn or what to say, 988 is listening, and their website offers some messages you can even just copy and paste right into their chat if you aren't sure where to even begin. Pass it on.